La loi sur les mesures d'urgence, on n'a pas besoin de ça. Ottawa vient se mêler de nos affaires.
C'est clair, pour terminer, la manifestation illégale à l'extérieur d'ici, on a besoin des nouveaux pouvoirs, de s'assurer qu'on peut continuer avec la vie normale. Alors, c'est évident avec le blocage sur les frontières que le nouveau pouvoir sont affectés parce que on a l'habilité de continuer le mouvement normal sur les frontières et je pense que ça c'est l'évidence généralement qu'il y a un impact sur les manifestations.
Pendant combien de temps est-ce que...
I'll be speaking as soon as I come out of caucus. I just need to speak with caucus.
Pendant combien de
À quel
temps?
moment on doit s'attendre à des changements concrets dans les rues d'Ottawa?
C'est important de réduire les tensions. C'est important de continuer avec une approche qui utilisait le nouveau pouvoir, le pouvoir financier, et je pense qu'il va y avoir un impact avec ça, et on doit attendre avec patience pour cette mesure de marcher, à mon avis.
Les Ontariens n'ont pas fait déjà preuve de patience, vous dites qu'il faut faire preuve
Non,
de patience.
alors, je suis tanné avec la manifestation, et je comprends bien, si c'est difficile pour moi, j'imagine que c'est presque impossible pour les personnes qui habitent à Ottawa. Et c'est le temps pour les personnes de quitter. Mais on a besoin d'une termination de l'événement à l'extérieur sans violence. Et ça, c'est tellement important.
La semaine prochaine, c'est pas censé siéger.
Oui.
Êtes-vous prêt à siéger la semaine prochaine pour débattre?
Oui, je vais parler sur ça immédiatement après le caucus parce que je dois parler avec le caucus. So, après le caucus, je vais parler sur ça.
Donc, vous en parlez.
Yeah, look, as I said to opposition House leaders yesterday, we are compiling everything and getting it to them as soon as possible. It's important to note that these measures have never been used. They were created in 1988, and they come with them a number of different complexities. And we want to make sure, before we hand them to the opposition parties, that they are in the proper form and that they have been properly vetted. And so those will be coming to them very soon. I'll be speaking to the specifics of when that will occur as soon as I come out of caucus. I have to speak to my caucus team.
Est-ce que vous voulez que les votes aient lieu avant la fin de la semaine?
Pardon?
Est-ce que vous souhaitez que les votes aient lieu avant la fin de la semaine?
C'est mon objet. Je vais parler sur ça.
Mr. Trudeau, will there be another party unwilling to speak this weekend, sir?
Sorry, thanks.
Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour, les manifestants qui sont sur la rue Wellington vont rester là jusqu'à quand?
Écoutez, on a maintenant donné plus d'outils aux forces de l'ordre, à la police locale, aux partenaires à l'OPP et la GRC pour pouvoir commencer leurs actions. Évidemment, ce n'est pas les politiciens qui décident qu'est-ce que les policiers, quand et comment les policiers doivent agir, mais on leur a donné beaucoup plus d'outils. On espère qu'ils vont pouvoir les utiliser.
Quand il y a des gens dans les hot tubs en face du Parlement qui font le party,
oui.
Les gens du Canada qui regardent ça, qui sont en défaveur de ce qui se passe, en ont assez et trouvent qu'on est en train de rire de ce qui se passe à Ottawa.
Tout à fait.
Est-ce que je sens qu'il n'y a pas nécessairement une grande impatience de votre côté?
Au contraire, je viens juste d'amener, pour la première fois dans l'histoire du Canada, la loi sur les mesures d'urgence pour donner des outils financiers, des outils concrets aux services de l'ordre, de pouvoir s'assurer que ces barricades finissent. Il est temps que ça finisse.
En tant que député du
Do you think
Québec,
you need to use force to get rid of the protesters, sir?
No, I'm not going to be using force. The decisions made will be by police doing their jobs the right possible way. What we have done with the Emergencies Act is put forward tools that the local jurisdictions of law enforcement can use in partnership in Ottawa, for example, with the OPP and the RCMP with extra resources to actually make sure that laws are enforced in a proportional way, in an approach that will be decided by the police of jurisdiction.
Monsieur McKinnon, est-ce qu'on peut lui demander
demander, vous êtes député du Québec, qu'est-ce que vous pensez de l'Assemblée nationale qui dit on ne veut pas de la loi spéciale au Québec? Vous pensez quoi?
Je pense qu'on a pris une action qui était nécessaire et surtout limitée dans sa durée, dans son étendue, dans les définitions géographiques. Et je pense que la population appuie les mesures que nous prenons pour justement mettre fin à
Bon,
tout
gère
ce
ça comment quand les élus de Québec disent non, non, faites pas ça, on n'aime pas ça, vous êtes élus québécois?
Oui, mais je suis élu québécois, donc je suis redevable. Je suis aussi député de l'Outaouais et nous savons que nous sommes à un point près de déborder de telles choses chez nous. Donc, je pense que le gouvernement a démontré sa sagesse et, oui, a limité ses gestes.
Souhaitez-vous que les autorités policières au Québec aient recours à ça, justement, des situations comme Gatineau ou la Colle?
Mais évidemment, on parle de questions hypothétiques. Nous, on traite des choses qui sont devant nous, littéralement devant nous, et je pense que le gouvernement a pris toutes les mesures nécessaires pour mettre fin aux choses qui se passent actuellement.
Quand est-ce que ça va bouger à Ottawa?
Mais la cité parlementaire, c'est à Ottawa, mais est-ce que vous considérez que ça déborde du côté de Gatineau? C'est la cité parlementaire,
je passe à côté à chaque jour, madame, d'une manifestation en appui aux manifestants ici. Donc, évidemment, on surveille ça de très, très près. Je salue d'ailleurs le service de police de la ville de Gatineau.
Vous parlez des farfadas, là.
Oui, voilà.
Bonjour, Madame Trudeau. Do you have any concern about the way the Emergency Measures Act has been put in place or the actual measures in it that might be some overreach?
Well, we got to do what we have to do. Cannot leave these folks out there destabilizing our economy and our country. Yeah, it's inappropriate and we need to take action. And then if that's what's necessary, then that's what we have to do. Thank you.
Can I ask you what you think of Mr. Lightbound's comment last week?
We live in a democratic country and a democratic party. And so Mr. Lightbound had his right to say what he felt, and that was fine.
Are you okay with it? Do you agree with it?
La situation à Ottawa avec les mesures d'urgence, est-ce que vous croyez que les mesures d'urgence vont faire bouger les choses à Ottawa? Vous espérez que ça se passe?
Je suis très positif et j'espère que ça va mettre fin aux manifestations. Certainement, je n'ai pas de problème avec les gens qui sont là pour faire valoir leur point de vue. Mais pour ceux et celles qui font partie des groupes extrémistes, j'en veux rien savoir. Puis on n'a pas besoin d'avoir ces gens-là sur la colline ou n'importe où.
En tant que député québécois, quand M. Legault, quand l'Assemblée nationale dit on n'en veut pas de ça, vous répondez quoi? Vous êtes du Québec, là?
Écoutez, moi je dirais qu'il devait faire un tour à Gatineau, où on a beaucoup des protestateurs qui sont là à Gatineau, dans ma circonscription. Merci.
Mr. McKay, are you comfortable with the use of the Emergencies Act?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. No, this has gone from a protest to an insurrection, and it needs to be brought under control. It's brought the economy to its knees with protests right across the border. It's a campaign of misinformation and disinformation perpetrated by, I would say, state and non-state actors, and it needs to be dealt with.
What do you think of Mr. Lightbound's comment last week? What do you think of Mr. Lightbound's comments last week?
Well, I don't agree with the methodology, and I probably don't agree with the sentiments, but there's always a kernel of truth.
When there's a lot of powers brought forward with an emergency act, the way it is,
Yes.
there's also the possibility of slippage. Is there anything in what has been announced and what you've seen so far that where you see you might be concerned about how it might be used?
Whenever you when you appropriate extraordinary authorities to any level of government, there's always a danger. That's what I particularly appreciate about this particular piece of legislation is it's measured. So your right to have a license it can be revoked. Your right to have insurance can be revoked. Your right to access your financial situation can be revoked. And that's on the first stage of things. And, you know, having listened to a conversation of a couple of truckers while I was walking home on Bank Street, they get the message.
Do you think it should invoke sooner? You think it should have been invoked sooner?
That's entirely within the way in which the police and the various levels of government operate. So that's total speculation.
You message. What did they tell you? What do you mean they got the message?
Well, they were on the phone and saying, I don't know who they were talking to, but we're staying there at the lights waiting, and it was. Well, this is a family television station, isn't it? But you got the message that they knew they would be in trouble, and they knew that if people joined them on the weekend, that they would be warned.
But we don't know how this is going to be enforced. This whole situation is a lack of enforcement. It was created because of a lack of enforcement.
Well, as Minister Blair said on television on the weekend, the lack of enforcement is inexplicable.
So you think
Can I
they're
just
going
ask
to
you,
move
you mentioned
before the
Colonel.
end of the week? You think they're going to move before the end of the week?
I don't know. I just don't know.
You mentioned the kernel of truth in Mr. Lightdown. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think there are frustrations that we have probably not heard properly, and that has created, a frustration which I think is the reaction is grossly disproportionate. But like everything else, there's always a kernel of truth in what the other side says.
But what Mr. Lightdown was saying is that Mr. Trudeau and the Liberal Party have politicized the pandemic and vaccination. Is that the truth?
No, I'm not sure that is. I think the truth is that there are a lot of people who are extremely frustrated and they don't feel heard. And that's not.
You don't feel heard within the caucus?
No, in the public. So, and I think that's a legitimate point. So, okay, take care, folks.
Thank you.
Mr. Holland, John Broussard said that he was upset he didn't get a copy of the motion today before the concerns went to caucus. What do you make of that?
Well, look, it's extremely important that we get this right. This is something that's never been used before. We have had very productive conversations, and certainly I've indicated to the House leaders that we're going to get this to them as soon as possible. But we have to make sure that everything is in its proper form and order. And given the fact that these are measures that have never been in Parliament before, we have to make sure that we get it right. And that's
Quand est-ce que vous allez la déposer, la résolution?
Comme j'ai dit, c'est imminent. On a
Vous avez dit
besoin.
ça hier, l'imminent, ça veut dire rapidement.
Oui, exactement. Mais c'est important de s'assurer que tous les détails sont finalisés. Et bientôt, je vais arrive ici avec plus d'informations.
But it appears that the enforcement is beginning right now. I mean, should the parties have that?
Well, let's take a step back, okay? When the Act is introduced, there are 7 days for it to come before Parliament. We're going to be well inside of that window. There will be ample opportunity for debate and for opposition parties to look at it. I understand everybody's anxious to get there. I am too. But it's essential that we get this right. We're operating well within the time frames that have been prescribed in the Act, and we will make sure that opposition parties have ample opportunity to take a look at this information and ample opportunity to have debate.
This motion on the first motion on the invoking of the Act before the motions on the orders, which have to come within 2 days.
Right. Well, again, I'd be in a position to speak shortly on the exact order of things. Right now, we're operating well within the 7-day window that we have been given, that the Act had contemplated. The Act contemplated these 7 days specifically so that we could tailor what we're doing to the circumstances that we're in, and we could ensure that what is before Parliament is in proper form. So I understand everybody's anxious, but we're operating well within those parameters, and I think everybody would agree it's important to get this right.
What's the justification in terms of the concern of violence? Obviously, the border blockade seems to have been looked at. We have outside in the street, but there seems to be the justification behind this Emergencies Act is the threat and concern of violence. What evidence is there to back that up?
Well, I think anytime we look globally at other situations, we can see how these things can get out of control and can lead to bad places. What we want to be able to do is use powers to peacefully exit these illegal blockades, these illegal protests that are really terrorizing this community. We want to make sure that those powers can find a way to get us there in a peaceful way. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we can use measures, financial measures like the Finance Minister and Deputy Prime Minister has outlined, and other tactics to ensure that this can have a peaceful conclusion.
Est-ce que c'est de plus en plus probable que la Chambre soit rappelée la semaine prochaine? Est-ce que, parce que là, la semaine avance, donc est-ce que ça devient de plus en plus probable que ce soit ça qui arrive?
C'est absolument clair qu'on a besoin de temps pour les débats. Et c'est important pour chaque parti, pour chaque député d'avoir l'opportunité de débattre. Et alors, j'ai parlé avec mon homologue dans l'autre parti et je suis d'accord avec cette position-là. Et on va négocier un temps approprié pour les débats complets.
The police are already handing out notices to people outside that these orders are in place. And yet
Prime Minister, will Ottawans have their city back by the weekend, Prime Minister?
Parliament has not yet debated this, so there's a possibility that this will be enforced before Parliament has a chance to debate it.
Look, the reason the Emergency Act was contemplated in the way that it was is when you are in a state of emergency, you need to act immediately, and it contemplates within 7 days that you need to begin the process of having parliamentary authorization. So both items are exceptionally important. We have to be able to act immediately in an emergency situation with these powers. We certainly also need to move within the contemplation of the Act within the 7 days to have parliamentary authority be extended to it. But this was all what was contemplated. This is new to all of us. I understand that. But we have to go back to what was written in 1988 and understand its framework and operate within it.
Banks are looking for assurances that if they're seizing people's finances, freezing accounts, cracking down on crypto trails, you know, what assurances do they have that they're not going to face legal repercussions?
Well, I refer you to the Minister of Justice. I'd speak more to the procedural elements of this.
À quel moment voulez-vous partager le texte préliminaire de la motion d'opposition?
Maintenant, on doit finaliser les détails, mais bientôt, vraiment bientôt, on va produire les documents.
Ça veut dire quand ça, vraiment bientôt? C'est aujourd'hui?
Merci. OK.